Hey everyone, welcome to another Conn Smythe Chronicles podcast. My name is Frankie, I'm your host, and I'm really excited today because I'm receiving the general manager of the Atlanta Thrashers, Marco Scanlan. Merci beaucoup d'être avec nous, Marco. Thank you very much for being here. I'm quite excited to do an interview with you. It was kind of a mixed feeling for me this week because I was happy to have the chance to get to know you better, but also at the same time, I was kind of sour about the defeat of last week. I don't want to say son of a bitch, but damn, bro, you've beaten me by 25 points. Honestly, for real, congratulations. But is this one of the, I would say, like the tightest win you've ever got?
It's fun. I've won once or twice from the god of stat corrections to the point where I went to bed Sunday night looking at it. I was like, it's over, but I'll make a joke about stat corrections on the wiki on the group anyways. Lo and behold, I wake up the next morning and I'm a winner. So no, it's happened to me once or twice. I think very famously, as the Cleveland Barons might attest to, or may no longer be able to attest to, but definitely a satisfying victory
Oh,
for the
dude,
Atlanta franchise.
yeah, I can't even imagine. Well, you know what? The cherries definitely pop on that side. I was kind of like, damn, this league is hardcore. Marco, you've been a member of the league since 2012. So it's been, wow, like 12 years now. Are you still really excited about the league? Are you still as excited as you were when you first joined the league?
Yeah, I think I still have a lot to give to the people of Atlanta, and I think they all appreciate my presence here. One of those comments that we've made that I've had with different people over the years is you have less time to commit to it. And I
Mhm.
know, managing the Atlanta Thrashers is my primary job, but as other responsibilities build up in life, it's different. And, I look back to my second championship team and I had traded every single one of my draft picks. I went into the draft with not a single, so you're concluding at least, 20 trades. And now thinking of would I have the time to talk through that many trades with that many people? I don't have the time that I used to have, but at the same time, I've told a few later GMs that worst case, you're there at the draft, you drink way too much, you're there for all the shit talking on the Discord, and it's still a great time. So yeah, I still have the commitment.
You got an assistant. His name is Alejandro Jack Power. I hope that I'm not butchering his name too much. Why do you have a peon? And what are the advantages of having an assistant GM?
Just to drop some league history on the newcomers, but Alessandro is famous for being the manager of the Minnesota North Stars and famously stopped setting his lineup during the playoffs, which is why in the future he was kicked out of the league and the North Stars tournament is named after him. So since I've added him as a peon, and he was very critical for his first draft as a peon because his general manager, myself, got the King Cup once or twice over the night. The draft was the next morning, and the first few rounds were a little slow, so he stepped in admirably. Since then, Alessandro's been a ghost, so he really works behind the scenes. We don't need to talk to know what each other are thinking. We don't need to communicate over any medium whatsoever to be in communication. But I think he put in a lot of work at the beginning and maybe a bit less work over the years since.
You guys sound like a beautiful couple. Like you don't talk to each other, and it's going down. Work is going down. Let's talk about the Thrashers, the 2024-2025 edition of the Thrashers. You went for a strategy that is really interesting to me. This is my first year in a fantasy hockey league, and you have three goaltenders. None of them are real number ones. I know it's debatable, Montembeault and all that stuff, and blah 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 blah. But in between you and I, they're not really identified as strong number ones throughout the league. If I'm not mistaken, you also have Allen, and who's your third goaler? Is it I can't.
Justice Annunen,
All right,
Justice.
perfect. So why do you have three keepers, and how come you don't have a superstar in your team? Is it because you weren't able to draft like a number one goaltender, or was it actually your strategy going into this year's draft?
I've been, I guess, fortunate to have identified pretty regularly some very good young goaltenders that I've been able to keep as keepers.
Mhm.
So Shesterkin I took as a prospect and ended up being able to keep him twice before trading him, and a few others over the years. And typically, I like going into the draft knowing that I have one good keeper frozen as one of my keepers, and then I only need to identify one. This year, that's Montembeault, and it's, the weakest probably I've ever gone in with a goalie keeper, but someone who I figure will put up stats. I thought the Habs might be a little bit better in terms of giving up goals, but still give up a lot of shots, which is a good recipe for goaltenders. And this year, looking at the end of the draft, I had a few goalies I really liked. So I wasn't worried if I didn't get, one in the early rounds that fell the right way. And honestly, maybe it was just the fact that auto draft took off a handful of goalies early that meant that nothing ever really lined up.
Mhm.
Annunen wasn't the number one on my list to be my second goalie. He was a number two, but I had a lot of faith that he would unseat Georgiev, who was really shaky in the playoffs. So going in with those two goalies was great. Jake Allen's really just a this week type player.
Let's talk about Demi Dove, who you drafted on the 17th round of the draft. Do you think it's the steal of this year's draft? And are you kind of worried of seeing how things are going right now with the Montreal Canadiens? And are you worried that Demidov isn't the right team to fully develop himself into the NHL?
No, not at all. I'll start with the draft. I had him in my mind. I was going to take him later, but just talking shit with different GMs, I was worried that someone was going to take one. So I actually spent some waiver money to jump ahead of one GM in particular at round 17.
Could we name that GM?
Yeah, it's the Montreal Wanderers. And I was looking at the Wanderers picks, and they had two picks left in the draft, and I didn't have another pick afterwards. And I was like, well, there's a chance the Wanderers take Demidov. If they do, it'd be around 20. Drafting after in 21. So if I want to do something, I need to do it now.
Hmm.
So it was fun. I got to make a trade at the draft, drop some waiver money, move up two spots. And then the rest of the guys that I had on my list, I thought I liked them and I thought I would be able to get them later. So it didn't really hurt me, right? A guy like Broberg, I was high on. So far, so good. Fuck, he has a point in every game, basically. But,
Hmm.
I ended up still getting him in round 20. I got Annunen, who I wanted, Spence, who I ended up dropping, but I had liked him coming into the season. So it seemed like the right time to do it. It was fun too. So Demidov, afterwards, the kid's what, 17 or 18. Honestly, that he gets benched for 2 games doesn't hurt him.
No.
He plays 12 minutes, he plays 2 minutes. He's practicing with men, he's getting stronger. He's clearly talented. So, he's going to be a fun keeper for next year. I would have liked to have gotten him a bit later, but it was fun at the draft. So,
So from what I get, it was basically more of a in your face move than actually, are you that type of GM that likes to rub it in the face of the other guys?
well, there's a little bit of getting in each other's heads. And I think with GMs that have a long history together in and outside the league, such as Gerardo and myself, there's a little bit of that back and forth. And I know I famously got into Gerardo's head with Marco Dano of the Winnipeg Jets quite a few years ago. And actually, an old Atlanta Thrasher. I think he was on the Thrashers team before they moved to Winnipeg. Jerry ended up drafting him much higher than he wanted, and it didn't work out. And maybe he got in my head in this one. I think I got in his head with Bertuzzi, who I ended up dropping and is now on my roster. So it's a free 11th round pick or 14th round pick or whatever it was. Sometimes you look back with hindsight and you go, maybe I was played and I could have waited. But I gambled a 17 this year. It's not that bad. Jerry gambled whatever he played for Tyler Bertuzzi. So,
Mhm.
1-0.
Marco, you know the drill. I'm gonna ask you questions. You're gonna have a minute in front of you to answer them. Oh, let's go for dump and chase. And here we go. Who's the better team, the Rangers or the Panthers?
The Rangers.
Who would you rather drop, Dak or Fantilli?
Bentilli.
Who's the worst GM ever, Bergevin or Gainé?
I mean, ever. I don't think either of them are the worst GM ever. Who's worse? I think Bergevin was worse.
Who would make a better commissioner, Thibault or John?
Oof. Both excellent commissioners, but I'd go Tebow on this one.
What's sweeter, winning a matchup by 25 points or making a steal during the draft?
No, winning that matchup.
Un bon français qui mange la marde.
Joe Sakic or Crosby?
Patrick Elias.
Winning $5,000 at the lottery or winning a third championship in the CSC?
I think a few GMs have spent more than 5,000 chasing that championship. Right now, I go for the championship.
Next week, you'll be facing the Rockies, the team of Steve, the commissioner. Any messages for the Rockies fans and also for the commish for that upcoming matchup?
No, I think we're just going to prove that the power rankings were right and that the POG was a little bit off. And, it's an early season matchup. I think we're all getting ready for the playoffs anyways. And hopefully, Steve, I get to see you there.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for being here and better luck, best of luck for this week's matchup. Thanks a lot, guys, for being here. And we'll see you soon for another CSC podcast.
Thanks a lot, Francis. And thank you to all my fans back home in Atlanta.
See you soon.
Cheers.